animals and God's elect. Now, just understand that you're not spiritual. This stuff is not for you. You don't believe in God and the devil, then, just move on from this. But anyhow, getting right into these matters, understand that animals are very receptive to God's spirit and God's elect. And what's pure. And I'm talking about, I'm talking about God's animals, and even animals of the kingdom of darkness too. They're still receptive to the light, of course, too. For you beings who belong to God, everybody else is it's not for. But understand that, when you're God's elect, chosen, however you want to say it, by God and none of this other stuff, this new age stuff, it will perish and all that stuff. It will. You tarot card readers, all this stuff, you're done. Because, I understand that, just getting into these matters though, God's animals, are truly drawn to God's light, what's pure. And these animals do have a the enemy is trying to come up against this. But these animals have a special connection to God's elect, his chosen, and also just God's people overall, These other animals and insects that are of the enemy's kingdom, they're receptive to matters too, but those animals are part of the kingdom of darkness, part of hell, all that stuff. But just understand that God's animals and elect understand that you're just chosen to bear witness with God's animals, because God's animals do speak volumes to your spirit and they minister to you. And certain angels will just I want to say certain angels, they just really intervene with matters when it comes to God's presence. And people understand that God's animals, specifically the pure-hearted animals, are just drawn to God's elect, God's chosen, and what's pure. I'm talking about the animals of God's kingdom, the pure-hearted animals, all this deep stuff. And certain angels will just be able to minister to your spirit, is what I was trying to say too, in the midst of these certain animals that are of God's kingdom. And even the animals that are of the enemy's kingdom too, God will still use those matters to speak to you too. You truly belong to God and all this deep stuff. And you have a relationship with God. You have the spirit of God. Yeah. God will use both. Trust me, God has the kingdom of darkness in effect as well, people. God and the devil are in contract about everything. With all that being said, you just need to receive what the angels are ministering to you through these certain animals, whether they be of God's kingdom or even the enemies. You still need to see what the angels are ministering to you, concerning to your spirit, to your mind, and and just overall be receptive to God's voice concerning you. Like I said, you people who don't have a relationship with God and all this stuff, you won't even perceive these matters, but this stuff is very real. People, I know exactly what I'm talking about, because God wants me to share this before I close this out. But even just being very much younger and all this stuff, people, many animals, certain cats and all this deep stuff too, dogs, puppies, however you want to say this stuff. People, I'm not even the biggest animal person either, but I do like certain animals, and I am connected to certain animals as well too. And others, no, not so much. Of course, not every animal, people. But anyhow, they're just drawn to the purity of you. They're drawn to you because you're of God's light, you're of God's kingdom, and you just need to receive the messages that the angels are ministering to you, because the angels will minister different things to you according to what you're dealing with and what you're encountering. But understand, you must worship God and His Spirit. You must have a relationship with God and and be in His Spirit, is what I'm trying to say. You can't be putting nothing before God and His Spirit, not the animals or anything. I shouldn't even have to say these matters, but God is leading me to. See, you certain people, you have relationships with animals. Your animals, you certain pet owners, you have a relationship with your animals, but you don't have a relationship with God. And see, this is very scary, people. You're being judged. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, God, once again, this is dealing with just God's elect, really. Certain animals you come across, you may, all this stuff. Yeah, angels do minister just through certain matters concerning animals, and you being chosen by God and you carrying God's light. God will speak. I already mentioned too that God spoke through a donkey and all this deep stuff. You people don't understand this stuff. It's not a game. But see, you must have a relationship with God to be able to see what the angels are ministering to your spirit through these certain circumstances and matters that you're encountering. When you encounter certain animals, you must have a relationship with God and have the Spirit of God to be able to sense the presence of these certain animals that you're encountering and what God is trying to show you, concerning your purpose in Him. Understand this. You got to have a relationship with God. And you pet owners who just, you put your pets and all this stuff above God and all this stuff, already know, you people are not a part of heaven. And I'm being very real. It's not a game with this stuff. God will show mercy to whom He shows mercy to. But understand that you must worship God in spirit and in truth. Nothing else. That's what you got to understand. But yeah, God will speak concerning certain circumstances of you encountering animals and all this deep stuff. That's all I'm really saying here, and He will minister to you, God, the Father, of course, too, and the angels more specifically concerning this stuff. And yeah, they're just drawn to God's elect, God's chosen, however you want to say it. And, God and, the real Jesus know what you truly, truly believe internally. And see, you pet owners, a lot of you reject God. Trust me, God is already showing me this. And see, man, He will show mercy to whom He shows mercy to. You other people, you're just a part of hell. Because this stuff is already written and prophetic, people. People understand that you must worship the true and living God.